All these kids think their parents are dragging them to another school. And then in our first meeting, I say to them, oh, I'm sorry you don't like school. Have you ever considered not going?
And what do they do with that?
They were like, wait, what? Because they thought they were being dragged to some other school they didn't want to go to. And then I tell them, we're not a school. I don't want to be in charge of you. You can come whenever you want, leave whenever you want, have your phone, your food, use us as you please. That's mind-boggling for most kids.
All right, so Ken, I'm just going to dive right in. Was there a specific moment whenever you decided that, okay, something's different, something shifted, I'm going to do this very differently?
Sure. It was the night that I read the Teenage Liberation Handbook back in the fall of 1995. I had been teaching for about 6 years. I was in my second year at the Amherst Junior High, and I was friends with a fellow named Joshua Hornick, who was an 8th grade science teacher. I was an 8th grade U.S. history teacher. We were coaching volleyball together. We were carpool mates. We were friends. And he knew about homeschooling. I did not. And he kept wanting me to read this book. And I kept saying, I don't want to read a book about homeschooling. Finally, on one lousy day when I was really mad about something at the school, I took this book and I started reading it, and I found out that I didn't know anything about homeschooling, and that this was amazing that these kids were not going to school and getting away with it. And that not only were they not going to school, they were just learning whatever they wanted to learn and going as far as they wanted and having a much better life than all these school kids were having. And so immediately it became obvious to me that what Joshua and I should do was to quit our jobs and help all the school kids we were tormenting in school leave school and use this homeschooling approach, this unschooling approach. And to do so, we'd have to host a little center and make it more feasible for people to consider the idea. So that was the thing, and that was 1995, and now it's 2025, and this is we're about to embark on year 30 of North Star next week.
Dang, and what has been the result? So you also explain the North Star method. Like, what do you do? What does it look like in person?
So North Star is a physical building. We're an in-person community center, and so I routinely meet children ages mostly 11 to 18 who are miserable in school, and I say, there's a different way to live and learn. You don't have to go to school at all. Don't find a different school. Don't look for a charter school. Don't go to a private school. Just how about stop going to school? I'll help you, if you're under 16 years old, write a homeschooling plan, and you'll be free and easy. And then most people don't want to do that alone. Most parents don't want to do that alone. Most of the people I'm dealing with are not the kind of lifelong homeschoolers you think of as homeschooling types. These are people with 3 or 4 kids, and the other kids are fine in school, and they're busy, and some of them are single parents, and none of these people perceive themselves to be homeschooling. And so I explained to them, hey, it's all very simple. We'll help you write a plan. Presto Majesto, you're free, and now you can come hang out with us at our center, which isn't that complicated because it operates like any other adult community center might, like a gym or a health club or a religious congregation. It's open during certain hours. When you come in, there's a bunch of activities you could join in, but if you don't want to, you could just sit in the chair and mind your own business. And we assume you can figure that out for yourself. And it turns out that kids who have a little headquarters and a weekly advisor at North Star to chat about things, and some classes to choose from, and some tutorials, and a social community of 50 to 60 other kids that come and go as they wish and use North Star. Each one uses it as they wish. It turns out that people grow up quite healthy, right?
Yeah, this is very fascinating. Did you figure all of this out over time, or did you have a hypothesis and walk into this and say, okay,
No, it
this is
wasn't
how
that
we're going to do it?
hypothesis. Stop it. The idea was, so in 1995, I read this book and I'm like, oh my God, you read Growing Without Schooling magazine. I met a bunch of existing unschooling kids. They were fine. They were quirky. They were odd, but they were healthy. People were doing this. I didn't make them up. They were existing human beings who had in the 80s and 90s homeschooled, unschooled, whatever, homeschooled tilted towards the unschooling side of things. And I said, oh my God, why are we pushing all these kids through this horrible enterprise of schooling, whether it's private, public, charter schooling, when you could just not go to school and turn out like these kids? Oh my God. let's just stop it. So, I mean, it wasn't like a theory. It was just like, you don't have to go to school. And it turns out if you don't go to school, you can start community college when you're 15, 16, 17. You can get jobs when you're 15, 16, 17. You get a driver's license, you pick up a GED. And with the GED in Massachusetts, but true across the country, you can do every single thing that any high school graduate is allowed to do. There's no walls, there's no limits. And so just don't go to school, pick up a GED, and get on with your life and live in freedom from 12 to 18, and see what you want to do. Have a whole, gap year. Just go live. But most people won't do that alone, so they need a little community center. So we built a little community center. There was a little bit of if you build it, they will come. That's the Field of Dreams movie. You're young. Have you seen that movie?
Mhm.
All right, because not everybody now. You're too young. Back in the day, that was all right anyway. So all these kids are walking out of the cornfields. They just come out of school and and mostly they come here and they think their parents are dragging them to another school. And then in our first meeting, I say to them, "Oh, I'm sorry you don't like school. Have you ever considered not going?" And they do a double take. They're like, "Wait, what?" Because they thought they were being dragged to some other principal to some other stupid school they didn't want to go to. And then I tell them, "We're not a school. I don't want to be in charge of you. You can come here whenever you want. You can leave whenever you want. You can have your phone. You can have your food. Leave me alone, and you can use us just as you please." So that's really mind-boggling for most kids.
And how do kids react to that? Like, you've been in business for 30 years. What does that look like? What are the effects?
Well, some say, "Well, thank God," or "That's obvious," or "Of course you do," and others like, you know, stop. Like they do it. They do a funny look, and they sit up straighter. Like, wait, maybe I want to hear what this guy has to say. So there's a definite immediate shift in the conversation because kids often don't realize where they're coming. They think, they've been to two or three different schools. They may have tried independent homeschooling before, especially now in the last few years post COVID. More people have tried homeschooling, whether it works or not for them is a separate thing. But so telling kids, "Hey, I have this place, but I don't want to be in charge of you," is rather unique. No one said this to them before.
Yeah, and what do they do with that? Like,
They look at their parents like, "Really?" It's a little bit of, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or something like that. Like, really? This is real? This is a place? It's been here while I was in school? Like, people do this instead of the other thing? It's like an alternate. It's like the Matrix or something, right? So So it's crazy. It's like really reorienting. People have to, in cognitive psychology, they talk about assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation is when you fit things into the buckets you already have in your brain, and accommodation is when you have to make a new bucket for something you didn't really have a category for before. So I can see their wheels turning, and this accommodation, like, wait, what? And homeschooling doesn't mean I have to be taught by my parents and become, the subject of their arbitrary wills. And the parents are like, huh. So it could just be like the way we handle after school and the weekends and the summer. We try to find camps, we try to find tutors, we try to find the sports teams or the music people or the theater options for these kids. Sometimes they're related to the schools they go to, but most of the time they're not. And so my job isn't so much to teach them algebra as it is to help them find the people and places and topics and resources they need. Wow. And then they could go just come here, 3, 4, 5 days a week at North Star. Well, wait a second. And we turn nobody away for money or for being a hard case. So we try to make school optional for any interested teen and family.
walk me through the experience of, like, a kid starting at North Star. So, like, they've had this conversation with you, then what happens? Like, are they disenfranchised for a little bit, kinda like, is this really real, sitting around trying to, like, just temp check it, and then over time they start getting interested in topics, or, like, what happens over time?
All the things happen. Some of what you just said happens for kids that way, exactly as you said. But people are different. It's like joining a new community. So some kids can walk in here the first day and go to 3 or 4 different classes that we have here. Most of our classes meet once a week, whether it's theater or a book group or science experiments or a math thing, right? Um, there's hiking, there's cooking, there's all kinds of groups that meet every day here. It's about 10 a day here, or 12. And so some kids will just jump right in and start going to things, and in between the things, they'll sit in the common room and say to some other strange kid, "Do you want to play chess?" And or some kid will say, "Do you want to walk to the corner store and they go out and leave the building and go walk to the corner store in the middle of the day, which is like the craziest thing they've ever done in their lives. And they just leave and they come back and they just like they can't get over it. But they just jump right in. Other kids with some anxiety and concerns will just come in and sit in a chair and watch the world go by. And like, is this really real? Right. We also have a silent room, a library where no one will talk to you. So they can go hide in there if they want. They can sit out back and watch the world go by. They can stay for an hour. They can stay for 6 hours or 7 hours, that we're open. So people will use a new program with the full range of ways any group of adults would use a new program, any group of humans, is, based on their personalities and trust issues. They'll either jump right in or jump into parts or see if they can find someone who looks friendly and hang out with them, or stay away from the scary ones. I don't like people just each use it their own way. And then some want to come back the next day, and then some need to take a week and not come back for a week. Like it's up to each kid.
That's interesting. You mentioned that this is mostly high school. Do you think like a structured type of education is helpful for young kids?
Structure can be good for everybody. We're perceived to be anti-structure here, and we're not anti-structure. We do have a calendar of classes. We do offer one-on-one tutorials. Everybody does meet with an advisor once a week. We do compare notes with kids about whether they're actually pursuing the homeschooling commitments and projects they've identified as being willing or interested to doing this year. And we kind of go through the weekly routine with each kid every week about, how is this working out for them? Well, we want a self-generated structure, not artificially imposed, arbitrarily imposed structure. Now, parents can impose a bit of structure on kids, and we don't object to that. If a parent says, we have a normal bedtime and you don't take your phone in your room, or whatever they want to say to the kid, or everybody, reads a book a week in this family, or everybody's counting math or their money, or everybody has a job or community service or walks the dog or cooks dinner once a week. Like, parents can have their own structures and requirements. But institutionally, North Star does not. It's kind of like the YMCA gym. Like, if I don't go to the gym, they don't call me up and say, "Hey, Ken, where are you?" I mean, they only do that if I've contracted with a personal trainer type person, right? Otherwise, you can go for a couple of weeks and not go there. And when you do go there, they don't follow you around and see whether you're playing basketball or using the weights or walking on a treadmill, and they don't count how many minutes you stay. Like, it's all on you, right? And that's how adults live their lives, generally speaking, across various options. And so it's just trusting kids to use North Star openly in conversation with their parents, openly in conversation with their advisor here, in a way that makes the most sense for them.
Why do you think kids are ready for that autonomy? I know that a lot of people would probably
You're
argue with
born
you
ready
that
for
they're
that autonomy. What kind of question is that? I'm going to yell at you now. Why are kids ready to be allowed to choose how to spend their time? Stop it. That's insulting. That's like,
Well,
uh,
no,
like you think
explain this
kids,
to me.
you think kids couldn't possibly know what they want to do with themselves?
No, I mean, I do. I'm mostly like, I always like to steel man arguments. Like, think about what somebody else would say to you, or like think about what people I already know um would argue against, and like having your perspective on it is really fascinating to me because you've seen it. Like it's not just like a I have this theory. You've lived this.
Sure. And the basest, simplest thing, the most basic side of this is normal humanity. These kids, after school in the summer, their parents ask them, do you want to go to this camp or not? Do you want to have piano lessons? Do you want to sign up for this sport or not? I suppose some parents make their kids do things kids don't want to do. But for the most part, kids are engaged and ask, should we do another round of this thing? Do you want to do it again or not? Right? Maybe the first time they're forced to try some things. But we live in a culture where asking people if they want to do stuff is kind of normal. We certainly do that with our partners, our spouses, our parents, our siblings. You don't boss them around and say, "I signed you up for something, whether you like it or not." I mean, I suppose with your spouse, you can buy tickets to some show that they don't want to go to, and too bad for them. They told you now. But by and large, we ask people if they want to do things. That's normal. Schooling is the abnormal thing. I'm just turning your question around 180 degrees and being like, why would you consider the kookiness of school to be normal, and asking kids what they want to learn to be abnormal. That's insane.
That's very, very interesting. I love whenever somebody flips the question. It's like it's like, why are kids ready? Why are they not ready? Right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super fascinating. Can you continue walking me through like how the conversation works with kids where you're guiding them per week? Because I've had a conversation with another person on this podcast called his name is Mike Goldstein, and he shared quite a bit about like this idea of teen flourishing, right? And we talked a lot about like what does it actually take for teens to flourish. It sounds like this check-in is really, really important. Um, is it the questions that you're asking, like, you're helping kids to uncover their goals, and then you're also kind of, like, keeping them, like, aware of them? Or what does a check-in do? How does it help?
I think it's less specific questions and it's more just the place holding of the conversation. In other words, there's about 9 staff at North Star who do these advisories, and each of us do them in our own way. And so they're not therapy, but you sit down and talk to somebody, and you're going to do it your way, Ella, and you're not going to do it my way. And so you catch up with a friend over you haven't seen in a while, or whatever. And so for me, it's kind of like, what's the news of the week? How you doing? How's this North Star place treating you? Sometimes I'll start with North Star. What days are you coming in? How are the kids here for you? Any staff you particularly like? What classes have you tried? Did you want any tutors here? Um, where do you hang out when you have free time? How is the whole North Star project working out for you so far? Any particular favorite things you've done? Right. And then I'll switch to I'm looking at my notes that we had with the beginning of the year meeting with your parents and your homeschooling plan. Are you reading any of those books yet? Have you ever, do you have any of them? Have you opened any of them? Which one? How far are you? What do you like it or not? Oh, I read that one.
Mhm.
You know. How about that math thing? Do you have the curriculum? Have you opened it yet? Is it easy? Is it hard? How is that working out for you? What about these other things that you had committed to doing in front of me to your parents? How is the homeschooling stuff, such as it is, or other hobbies at home that you were going to have chores or cooking or other things you were going to do. How's any of that playing out for you? And then what about besides North Star? Where else in the world do you go every week? Do you have any classes? Do you have any jobs? Do you have any regular appointments? Visits with grandparents or youth groups, or do you have any? I don't know. It could be anything else that you do regularly. Do you have any other places you go and things you do on a routine? And then after we talk about those things for a while, I'll ask, you ever go outside? How's your dog? And anything special this week? Anything coming up this weekend? Any travels or events or parties or family affairs? What's going on? Do you have any friends outside of North Star you see? Anybody you see from North Star outside of North Star? Um, and how I do that is not identical to any of the other 9 people at North Star, but the gist is the same, right? The concept is the same of we're just trying to help hold this thing together with you. We're going to meet with you every week. We're going to meet with your parents and you together 3 times a year. And we just don't want to assume everything's okay. We want to sit down and have this conversation. Some kids love it and will talk to us for 40, 45 minutes a shot. And some kids can hardly sit still for 5 minutes and say, I'm done. I have nothing else to tell you. I don't like this. I'm done. And we'll say, well, thank you for, just we wanted to go through the checklist and just at least be on the same page of what we think is happening for you. So that was awesome. Go play. Go away. So, but how my colleagues do it is, specifically different from how I would do it, but not in spirit, just in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this makes sense. It's actually really fascinating. So, back to the beginning of our conversation, you were saying that this is especially a place for people that have started to hate school, like people that have
Right.
really, really started to check out. It started to be not just like not great for them, it's like actually like not good at all. Like it is harming them in some way, shape, or form. So it sounds like what North Star is too, and like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like a community place for kids to deschool.
Sure. Okay, first of all, let's hold that about 70% of the kids or more are coming out of school with us, and they wouldn't be homeschooling or leaving school without us, right?
Interesting.
Let's
Hmm.
hold that for a moment. And in that group, some of them were going every day and getting straight A's and managing school just fine, and a bunch of them were crashing and
Interesting.
burning by refusing to go or having anxiety or self harm or the partial hospitalization programs, and like some of them are crashing and burning. Some of them are on the some of them are autistic. Some of them, lots of bullied kids and LGBTQ and other kinds of people that don't quite fit in at school. There's a lot of nonconformists, a lot of outdoorsy types, a lot of artists and musicians. All the people who just go like this school thing. Really, for how much longer do I have to do it, right? And it's not that they can't or won't, though some of them it is, but this the whole enterprise of school just seems like really a misuse of their lives until age 18. And isn't there a better way to live? And couldn't they be allowed to do that, please? And and so no one has really told them yes, and here and we will help you, and it doesn't have to be conventional homeschooling like you think it might have to be, right? So that's who's coming. The 30% of the group that's previously homeschooled, some of them have homeschooled and gone back to school because it wasn't so much fun. Some of them have homeschooled successfully, but they've hit the end of that stage because most of the kids in their homeschooling group are going to school for high school. Some of them are doing just fine and are just coming here to check out North Star a little bit to see if it's going to add in anything. And if it doesn't, they'll be happy homeschoolers without us. But that's a small group. By the way, I just want to remember, speaking of spinning the question around, how many people like going to school? Almost nobody likes going to school. Even the kids getting honor roll grades. I mean, what, a third of the kids get honor roll? The rest of the kids are being told not whatever for you. Um, and the kids in the honor roll grades, some of them have a lot of stress. So you take the kids with honor roll grades without too much stress. And then you say, well, how many of you actually find this redeeming and interesting and you're glad you're getting to learn all this good stuff at the school place with these good teachers? And it's like, yeah, 6 kids maybe by then. And then you ask those kids, um, would you rather they cancel vacation and just had school open year round? And they all look at you like you're from Mars. No, they can't wait for their own time to be in charge of themselves to learn what they want to learn their way. They all can't wait to be done with school too. I mean, who likes going to school? It's really kind of sad. That's why I quit, because the same kids who hate going to school often love their summer camps. They often love their sports and their theater and their other activities, and they cry when those things are over and they're sad. Well, I want to be that person running those programs, so they're sad when they're done with me. And that is how kids feel about North Star, by the way. Just for the record, they object to snow days. Why are we closed? We could have gotten there. Get out of here. Why are we closed for the summer? You know. Um. So I've won. I've achieved that goal of mine to be on that side of things. But the way to do that is to get out of the whole heaviness of the schooling model.
That's fascinating. Yeah, and I mean, if you break it down a little bit more, like the kids that enjoy school probably enjoy something inside of school. Like, for example, my friends are there, or yeah, I have this one class that I actually like. Maybe it's like a hobby class, or maybe there's this one teacher that teaches something really, really cool. But it's usually something, not like this whole institution of school.
Sure. And that's fine. In real life, I have 2 adult children now. They're 29, 27. They both went to school. They didn't come to North Star. They didn't homeschool. And plenty of the kids I work with at North Star have brothers and sisters who, given a choice, stay in school, whether it's a public school, a private school, a charter school. We're not saying that nobody should go to school. Anybody can go to school, and they're on the football team, and they have all those good things that you just mentioned happen for people, and they're in part of a good social group, and things are exciting. Good for them. We're not saying that nobody should go to school. We're saying nobody needs to go to school, and anybody could stop going to school. I'm here for the anybody could stop going to school thing, not everybody should stop going to school. I'm not that of a
Yeah,
much of a
and that distinction is quite important. Like, I was talking to Isaac, our CEO, one day, and he was saying that he was, I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, was on the phone with a parent who was just like basically saying that all these things were happening in their kids' lives, that they were struggling, that all these things were happening, but they couldn't pull them out anymore. They had a couple travel things that they wanted to do, but the school has rules, and they were like, why can't you take them out? Like, you can't, like, you just do it, like, that's it. And so I think, like, the spirit of why not is just like so clear in this conversation. And like every single parent has experienced this moment where like the institution tells them one thing, right? The institution says like this is what's best for your kid. However, as a parent, you have this like really strong conviction inside of you that you're like, I don't think so. Like I know my kid, like there's something else that's probably better. Like this is not the best. And so I think that's really, really cool that y'all have created something that allows families that are in that space especially, but like also other families, but especially the kids that are feeling that moment where they're like, this alternative, this school, this opportunity that we have in front of ourselves, like it's not solving our problems, right? And we need to figure out something else.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I mean, it's very satisfying to me to be able to offer parents and kids an option that they felt like was inaccessible or they didn't know about. Either that they didn't know they could do, or they even if they it wasn't really homeschooling independently wasn't particularly redeeming or helpful, right? So to say to people there is another way and we'll help you do it. Obviously, I'm still pretty fresh about it. I'm pretty happy about it.
No, and I think that's really good. Like to be passionate about the thing that you're creating and I'm guessing and like tell me tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm guessing like the reason that you're so passionate is because you've seen these people. Like it's not just like we're talking about, a theory. It's like you've seen these lives change by this mentality that you approach your program with.
Well, that's the back side of it. The front side of it is I actually I still have a lifetime of penance to do for all the harm I created to all the kids I was stressing out in school. Or,
Interesting.
not me personally, but the whole system, the whole culture. We are stressing out so many kids so unnecessarily that someone needs to tell people it doesn't have to be this way. And it is so urgent to me. I can't stand it. There are so many kids right now sick to their stomachs that next week they have to start a whole new school year and start figuring out, summon the energy to deal with these adults and these grades and this morning beyond time issues and all the stuff that, whether they have friends or not, all the stuff they don't really want to do, and some are so much better, and why can't life be like this? And some of them literally are like throwing up in the morning. Some of them are rolling over in the bed and pulling over the covers and don't want to go and turning off the lights and hiding. So for some people, it's pretty marginal. And for some people, it's not at all. They go to school and it's fine. It's fun. It's good. They're happy to see their friends again. It's kind of exciting to start a fresh year. So good for them. But for the people who don't want to go and are just stressed and sick, it's so unnecessary. And life doesn't have to be that way. And more people should help more people not go to school. Like, this is outrageous. So that's the urgency. I really feel that. And so that's really what keeps me going, is that there's so much misery.
Have you seen this get worse over time or is it the same?
It's certainly not getting better. I don't know if it's getting worse. Maybe I think elementary school probably has gotten worse in the last 20, 25 years with the emphasis on testing and less recess and, you know, pestering kids to learn more. And like, I think elementary school has probably become less fun than it was 20, 30 years ago. I don't know if high school is any worse now than it ever was before. I mean, there is more and more state testing and all this accountability nonsense. The the sense of scarcity, which I think is a whole false sense, is maybe worse than ever. That is, there's very few good jobs in America, and if you don't go to school and get good grades, you'll never go to a good college. You'll never be able to get one of those few good jobs. And so, the only way to have a decent adulthood in America is to go to school and do well as a third grader. And if by fourth grade you're not doing well, you're probably going to be doomed as an adult. And certainly, if you're in ninth or 10th grade and you're not playing the game well, you're going to be in big trouble. I think that's worse. I think it's false. And I think given the cost of 4-year private colleges and liberal arts colleges, it's criminal. And I went to Amherst College, so I benefited from the whole system in some way. And I had a good experience there. I'm not criticizing my own experience, but the cost of a 4-year Amherst College diploma now is outrageous. And to assert that kind of experience should be the goal for everybody is just creates a false sense of stress. Well, it creates a real sense of stress, but a false sense of scarcity that isn't real, and that we should be helping people learn skills and have experiences. And there's so many things you could do from 12 to 18 besides try to prepare to get accepted to Amherst College. Plus, these unschoolers get into Amherst College anyway, so what difference? You know, just go live your best life, and it turns out you'll be appealing. But go learn a few languages, go travel the world, go work with sheep, go learn plumbing and electrical stuff, go be a solar panel expert. I don't know, like just go do stuff. And also, we see so many kids use community college well in their ages 15 to 20 without going to 4-year schools. And there's so many trades and certificates and internships and things to do and ways to explore the world, that the assumption that there's a lot, I just think it's more pressure than is appropriate on kids today.
When do you think that started? Like, I mean, there used to be a time where it was a lot easier for kids to feel like there were pathways and they could, for example, like choose a trade and be successful. And like there are a few jobs that are just so admired today, and like every single parent is pushing their kid to do that. Is that just like a culture thing, like a comparison culture thing? Everybody wants their kid to be the genius. Everybody, is comparing their toddler, like, oh, he walked at this point, oh, he talked at this point. And like everybody's just like so excited for their kid to be a genius as opposed to like the best that their kid could possibly be. And like flourishing means different things for different people.
I think it did get worse in the 1980s and 90s. I'm not sure about that, but I think that the culture shift. Um, I'm sure we could blame uh, Facebook and Zuckerberg. That'd be fun. Or blame the internet overall. Social media in the last 20 years. From 2010 or 15 years onwards. And prior to that, there was this report that came out in 1980 or 82, The Nation at Risk, about American schools are lousy and kids are falling behind. Um, that created a lot of this pressure. And there was also a good-hearted, well-intentioned, equality-oriented, justice-oriented thing to help more people have more access to 4-year colleges, and that justice in America means helping low-income people and low-income urban people, first-generation kids, people of color, underrepresented groups who haven't had the 4-year college experience have access to that college experience. That's essential, right? That's all well intentioned, and I kind of agree with most of it, and was part of it too. But at this point, it's kind of overrun its mark. But I don't. I mean that for affluent white kids too. Not all my siblings need to go to college. Not all my nieces and nephews need to go to 4-year college, and so everybody should reconsider that message at this point. But the pressure partly comes from a well-intentioned vision by adults, or dream for adults, that all kids have all access to everything.
That's interesting. At your school, or not school, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At your program, um, do y'all promote and like encourage kids to be different and unique? And like how do y'all do that differently?
I don't think we do that explicitly. And I think, so sure, we say you can do whatever you want and we're non-judgmental. And if you want to spend all your time studying the clouds and meteorology, go for it, right? And if you want to raise sheep, go for it. And if you want to, learn archery, go for it, right? Like, whatever the unusual interest is, we're all for that, for any kid who wants to do it. But we don't like go around telling each kid you ought to find something unusual to want. Why don't you want anything unusual? We don't push that. As long as we push it. And frankly, the most common outcome for North Star alumni is 16, 17, 18, they're experimenting with community college. And if they like it, they're going to go full time and then do a 4-year college. And that 4-year college most often is the University of Massachusetts, because that's the affordable one here, right? It's a state university. The most common outcome is don't go to junior high or high school, use some community college, go to UMass, and get on with your life in a happy, healthy, centered way without all the stress and bother that everybody else went through. And meanwhile, you lived a really fun, more interesting, clever, creative, spacious life from 12 to 18 compared to all the people in school did, right? And at the fringe of that, within that, there's other people who discover they don't like community college any better than school, and they don't want to go to college at all, and they're going to just go get a 1-year certificate in some kind of trade or some kind of other work, or they're going to start their own business, or they're going to be computer programmers or artists or musicians, or they're going to learn 3 languages and go live in another country, and they're going to cook, and they're going to start a restaurant. I mean, people do get off track and become entrepreneurial, but it's not that we push that and we don't romanticize it and we don't value it more. It just so happens that there's people doing that for sure. But again, the most common outcome is rather mundane. Is we help some miserable kid who was refusing to go to 8th, 9th grade, bored, sad, depressed, couldn't get out of the house. They come to North Star for 2-3 years, and by the time they're 17, 18, 19, they're having a job at Walmart, they're going to community college, they got their driver's license, they've had friends, they've had a couple of good years under their belts at North Star, and it's all extraordinarily different than anything that would have happened for them had they stayed in that school that was driving them nuts. None of this would have happened from 16 to 19, and they wouldn't be the 19-year-olds they are without the spacious time that they had with us, right? And the support for moving at their own pace they had from us. So it all matters, but I wouldn't say that we're creating, well, on the one hand, we're not creating a bunch of, everybody's outside the box forever kind of life. That's not really what we're doing. On the other hand, I did do one of my favorite videos, was a panel a couple of years ago called What Still Matters, Alumni Over Age 30. And these were kids from the 90s we worked with who are now in their 30s and 40s. And, you went to North Star when you were 15, man. You're 40 years old. Really? What's the big deal? So, who cares? And there is obviously a sense of, yeah, I didn't put up with stupid high school. I bucked the system. I got out. And the idea of I could always do that again if I need to has stuck with them. The spirit of some like questioning the assumptions, questioning the cultural norms, and valuing one's own, creative independence. That does stick. But what surely sticks is the fact that they went from 15 to 18 not miserable. And there's like, even if nothing else, I didn't know if I would have made it to 18. I would have dropped out. It would have been so negative. The whole thing was so terrible that the fact that we cut it out and I had those 2 or 3 or 5 years, however many years they were at North Star, to spin it around. How could that not matter? How could it not impact the rest of my life that I didn't like hit rock bottom and stay there and go worse and sink and sink and sink. And then at 18, they finally let me out. And then I began surfacing at 18, going on 19. And by the time I was 23, I finally figured something out, right? Like you helped me when I was 17 or 16 or 14 get out of all that mess. And I've been living well ever since. So thank you, right? Like what still matters of that? I don't know. Maybe they would have found themselves out without us, sure. But I hope that's how it is, right?
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I'm curious to hear your perspective where there's not a North Star, where there's not an option for families that never expected to homeschool, that never expected to need an alternative. What would you recommend that they do? They have a kid that is really frustrated, not flourishing, not doing great, and they know it, but they don't know what to do next.
Okay. I'll give you a few options. Option one is stay in school just for the social cultural value of it, the friendships of it. Let your kids get bad grades and don't fret about it, and just assume they're never going to graduate from that high school, and that at some time, eventually, they'll drop out and get a GED, and they'll be able to take it and pass it, and they'll go to community college if they want to go to college. But you're not really depending on the credits or the transcript from this place. So just use it for what it's offering, which is a community center function for your child, and just milk it for what it's worth. Let your kid miss all the days they need to. Let them threaten you till the cows come home, and just don't stress about it. Just ignore all of it. And as long as your kid enjoys going, has some friends, and it serves a purpose in your family, use it as long as you can milk it. And then when you're done, get out and let it go, right? And doesn't it's not a stain. Don't internalize any of these negative messages, right? Option two is the homeschool. You get out, you create your best routine as you can. As you know, this is what your work is over there at OpenEd. There's a whole national network of a zillion online things that people could be part of. Outschool and the whole, some of it's expensive, some of it's inexpensive, some of it's free. And so you pick and choose a couple of things and you just try to live your best life outside of school. And that might be a lot of after school kinds of arts and clubs and sports and things that your kid does. From they're really busy from 3 to 7 every day, and they have scouts and they have church groups and they have every other youth thing under the sun. But during the day they're kind of on their own, and there's not a lot of homeschoolers for you. Well, sorry, do an out school class and do the best you can, and go volunteer at the library, go volunteer at the senior center. You're not going to have a peer oriented life. Let it go. Have an interesting life. Go work with the animals at the vet once a week, and go work at the senior center once a week, and go volunteer at the library once a week, and leave me alone. Like, go build the best life you can. Stop worrying about school, and as your kid gets older, you see what sticks, and then they can volunteer and get jobs in those areas, and maybe it's a museum, maybe it's who knows what it is, but then they start finding themselves. But it's hard. I don't mean to make that sound easy, and it's anxiety inducing if you're the only one pulling your kid from school, and you're not really trying to get them to do a homeschool curriculum for credit and graduation purposes, and you're just kind of like bypassing the whole schooling rubric to let your kids do interesting things all the time. People will think you're atrociously terrible. People, your particularly your family members, your grandparents and aunts and uncles will think you're doing a terrible thing to this child because you're not making them do the conventional stuff. They're wrong. They don't know they're wrong, and it's really hard for people to grasp what we're talking about. But you just hold a line that say, look, this kid's going to be so on track at 8. They're going to be so much more mature and healthy and wise at 18, self-aware than their peers. And then more importantly, it's not even all those things. It's tell me your second best alternative to what we're doing. We're trying the best we can. We could send them to boarding school, but they don't really want to go, and we don't really have the money, and I don't want to miss them. I love my kid. I want to be with them. And there isn't a local school to go to. We're not going to do a boarding school. We're just going to do this mishmash homeschooling thing in a way that works for us. And thank you for your love and concern. It's going to be fine. Go call this Ken dude. He'll yell at you some. Go learn about homeschooling, unschooling, and do the best you can. And just realize that most of the kids going to school most of their lives till age 18 are not getting that much out of it. And your kid is not. There's no such thing as falling behind. It's just crazy talk. Search a little harder to find some joy and confidence that you're a genius.
I love this. Okay, to wrap up the podcast, I have 3 rapid fire questions for
Oh
you.
boy.
If you can answer them with the first thought top of mind. So you just mentioned falling behind. There's no such thing as it.
Right.
Give me a short snippet. Why is there no such thing as falling behind?
You can always learn stuff tomorrow or today. I could run right home and learn stuff. Leave me alone. I
Question
didn't
number
do it
2.
when everybody else did it, so now I lose. Shut up.
Question number 2. What is your advice to parents about being judged? So many parents are afraid of the judgment that comes from family, friends, as you were saying. What's your best advice?
That's hard because I don't know these people and I don't know the uniqueness of their situations. The trite answer is to trust yourself and value your own self-judgment above other people's. It's hard for people to do, and that's not a really helpful answer to people in a place where that isn't so easy for them to do, and they wouldn't be so moved. I mean, if they could just follow their own instincts, they would have, and they wouldn't have all this stress and bother. So when you can't, it's just, again, consider what's the next best option. I think I'm doing the best thing by my kid, and as long as you feel like you're always looking at what else you might be doing and pretty sure you're still on the right track, stick with what you got.
Love it. And my last and final rapid fire question. What is some encouragement to parents who know that something is wrong?
You're right. Something's wrong. Your kid doesn't want to do the things they're being asked to do in the way they're being asked to do them. And the problem is most likely not your child. It's most likely your child is sane, healthy, rational, and responding appropriately for them. And if you can listen to your child and brainstorm alternatives with them, including not going to a place that asks you to do things that you think are senseless, um, see what you can do, right? A lot of these problems can't be fixed in the schooling model, and switching to a different school isn't really much of a solution in most cases. So it's a big topic to take on. But the encouragement is your kid is probably healthy and right, and good for them for being a squeaky wheel. Like, that's kind of what we want, is for your kid to stand up for themselves. So let's see that as your kid standing up for themselves as a healthy first step.
I love it. This has been very, very interesting. It's very, very cool to talk to somebody who's so passionate about what you do. If people want to find out more about what you offer, where can they go?
They can go to northstarteens.org, northstarteens.org. North Star is in Sunderland, Massachusetts. You can find us pretty easily just by Googling. You can Google my name. I have a website, kennethdanford.com. And if you're interested in starting a program like North Star, we have a whole network and consulting gig. That's a separate organization called liberatedlearners.net. And while we're at it, I have a book called Learning is Natural, School is Optional, the North Star Approach to Offering Teens a Head Start on Life. And I have a TED Talk that was given in 2013 at Amherst College. And so you can watch the TED Talk. You can get my book. Anyway, you can reach out to Liberated Learners. You could visit North Star in person or by the website. All those things.
Nice. Lots of great options. Yeah, if anybody has more questions, feel free to reach out, drop a comment in any of the podcast places. And yeah, this was really awesome. Thank you so much, Ken, for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. Looking forward to hopefully meeting you in person sometime.